Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast, where we do all of our own stunts.
We do.
I am Jeremy.
Yeah, I am Andy.
And we need you to listen to us one last time.
One last time.
Actually, we need you to listen to us all
No,
the time.
please listen to us lots more times. Yeah.
This is a very important episode for us, Andy, because about 2 years ago,
Yeah.
we started this podcast watching and reviewing Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
At the time, yeah.
And now here we are, finally getting to review Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning.
It's been a long time coming. This movie got delayed a year.
It did.
Yeah.
And now seeing it, it's kind of obvious why. Like, we'll talk about it. This is a lot of movie.
It's a ton of movie.
But just, sentimentally went back and listened to that first episode.
Same.
Not only to get ready for us, but just kind of, for the
So
sentimentality.
young, so new at this.
We've come a long way, Andy. We've come a long way.
I was so nervous that first episode.
I probably same. I still get nervous. I still
Oh, I
worried
do
about
too,
what
but-
I'm gonna screw up. But we've been inspired by Tom Cruise once again to brave, the perils of this podcast.
We're braving being old men who are staying up way too late.
That's right. A little behind the scenes, we went and saw the IMAX 7:00 showing in Savoy, and so it is literally like 11:00 right now.
It is.
So late night podcast.
But we just didn't want to.
straight off the watch.
Yeah.
So this
No
is all
notes.
no notes. I'm flying blind here again, taking notes from Tom
Yeah.
and saying we're gonna do this.
We're going to figure this out.
We will find a way.
We will find a way.
All right, so Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This is an off-the-cuff summary, but Tom Cruise, aka Ethan Hunt. That was something we said repeatedly on that last review that we did, or the first review we did. That they're just synonymous.
They're the same
Whether
thing.
you say Tom Cruise or Ethan Hunt, it's the same person.
They should just start calling him Tom Cruise in the movie.
Exactly. He has to destroy the entity, which is this all-powerful AI that is threatening to annihilate the world, and him and his team have to access its original code, which is sunk in a submarine in the bottom of the ocean in the Arctic.
Yeah, it is.
And then they've got to do all sorts of other stuff to trap this AI in some sort of little digital box.
Yeah, they do. And they have little names for all the digital boxes and things they have. And
They sure do.
yeah.
But mostly this movie is just exactly what we've come to expect from the Mission Impossible franchise. It is incredible action set pieces. But Andy, I'll throw it to you. Initial thoughts on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
Fantastic. It's probably too long. It's an over-bloated plot. It's convoluted, but I don't want to just repeat myself from Dead Reckoning Part 1, but does it matter? To me, it doesn't, because I sit there in that IMAX theater with you and I'm just blown away. 30 years into these Mission Impossible movies, years of Cruise developing this persona of I am just this overly excited about everything crazy guy who will risk life and limb literally to entertain you, and it still works. And it worked completely on me this entire movie.
Andy, I'm going to have to ask for a little leeway here because I'm going to say some things I wasn't expecting to say on this podcast,
Okay.
to be honest with you. Early on in the movie, I was like, oh no. They've lost it. They've lost the grip on the steering wheel of this franchise a little bit, and it is exactly what we said. It's become more and more of this Tom Cruise. What can I do? What crazy stuff? We know that they build the movie around the stunts
Yeah.
and to fill in plot later. And I was like, they've gotten so focused on the what can we do, they've lost sight of how do we get you there, and. And I was like, I've just got a lot of problems with this movie.
Sure.
But I'm sitting there, and they were piling up, and I was going, is this movie, is it overly sentimental about the rest of the franchise?
Yeah, probably.
Yes, it is. Is it just chock full of bad dialogue that's designed for either trailer audio snippets
Yeah.
or motivational posters?
Absolutely.
Yes, it is. Is it a just narcissistic Cruise promotional vehicle with how many times they say, it's only you. You're the only person who can do it. You're the only person the world can trust.
Absolutely.
Yes. Is it Fast and the Furious level of descent into the unrealistic?
Yeah.
Yes. is it over the top dramatic about the absurd impossibility of these scenarios?
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't disagree with anything you
And
said.
yet, Andy, and yet,
Yeah.
you get to these amazing action set pieces, and you're right. It doesn't matter.
It just
doesn't
matter.
that the other parts were. I actually was worried they were actively bad, and by the time we're in this submarine doing this mission, I go, this is some of the greatest filmmaking I've ever seen, and
Yeah.
I cannot believe that I'm going to walk out of here and be like, that was magic.
Yeah.
As much as all that other stuff
No,
I
there's
thought
a
was bad.
ton of flaws with this movie, and it's just irrelevant. I've been a movie fan my entire life. I'm going to be 45 years old in a couple weeks in June. I don't know how they made this movie.
Yeah.
And I have spent my life, my adult life especially, reading about movies. We've talked about it before. When DVDs were the thing, I watched every behind-the-scenes documentary on every DVD I ever bought. I have watched 3-hour documentaries on making of movies. I don't know how they made this movie. It's unbelievable. The budget, I sent you a text a couple months ago at some point. It's like, the rumored budget for this movie is $400 million. You could have told me it was $400 billion. I do not know how they made this movie.
It is unbelievable.
It's unreal.
So I'm sure there's plenty of other stuff we had to say, but because we're doing this off the cuff, I'm going to go ahead and put the spoiler warning right here.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard to spoil Mission Impossible
It
movies
really
as far as,
tough.
plot,
The trailer spoils Mission Impossible.
but I also don't want to go into detail about some of the coolest parts, and just people need to watch and experience it. I definitely recommend IMAX.
Oh my
See this on the
gosh.
biggest screen you can.
Oh my gosh.
It's
yes.
fun to see with a crowd of people. This movie did get the closing credits applause.
It did.
In our theater.
It did.
Very appropriate.
I was very happy about that.
But yeah, I want to give the spoiler warning so that as we get into talking about some of these things, I just feel conscience free that I'm not worried about spoiling anything. So, man, I'm sure there's things that I should talk about plot wise or whatever before we get into. But let's start that submarine sequence. So there are other really cool things leading up to that, but that's the first one that has you just going wow and how and
Wow
all
and
of
how.
this.
That should be the tagline for this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow and how.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were saying, how did they do it? Like we were talking about on the drive home. We want to watch the making of featurette of this.
Yeah.
And they could release the making of featurette in theaters, and I would go pay
That's
to
what I
watch
said.
that.
I said the next Mission Impossible movie should just be how did they make this movie?
What I couldn't believe is so. One thing about this is criticism paired with compliment. This is the most self-serious Mission Impossible movie that's been made yet.
It does. It's not
Very
as fun.
It's not near. That's one of my complaints. Is they really lost the grip on these are supposed to be kind of fun, and they're like it is so serious.
It's very
very
serious.
melodramatic. But I was like the tension that they built in that sub scene is more tension than they've ever had in any of these scenes.
I agree.
Tension they could have had in other scenes, but it recalled to mind okay, Ghost Protocol when he's on the side of that building, and he's a mile up in the air, and probably not literally, but that's just saying it felt like that, and a glove's failing, and then all the gloves are off, and he's strapped on. I can't reach the building. I've got to run and jump.
Yeah.
I mean, all of that could have been played very tense, but they played it just we just want people to eat popcorn and enjoy the visual thrill here. Not the case with the submarine one. Nobody wanted to move. The theater we talked about was dead silent. Everybody was remember to breathe. It is tense.
It is. And the movie is so quiet during that point. There's no music playing. There's no score. Nothing. I don't think.
I would say if there is score, it's
very subtle.
It's just sort of sounds.
Yeah. They I said it on the way home. They really let that submarine scene breathe. No pun intended.
And again, they ratchet everything in this movie has to be ratcheted up to 10.
Oh yeah.
It's not only are we already hundreds of feet at the bottom of the ocean in the Arctic in a submarine with torpedoes floating around with water shifting back but it's also rolling towards a cliff. Everything that could possibly raise tension.
Yeah.
Which is amazing in a movie where I mean as a movie viewer, Tom Cruise is getting out of this thing alive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't the trick is, can you build tension even when people know that?
Yeah.
And they did a great job.
They did a
of that.
phenomenal
because
job.
you're going how is he going to get out of this? And just I've never wanted to not be somewhere more in a Mission Impossible movie than in that submarine. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? In real life,
Yeah.
like he does all sorts of crazy stuff that I'm like, I wouldn't want to do that. That was like, this is the stuff of nightmares.
Oh, yeah.
Being in that place.
And then if it wasn't bad enough, then at one point he has to climb into like the torpedo chute or whatever you call it. So then you're adding, I mean, it's already claustrophobic, but then they really barrel down on the claustrophobia.
I know it's. I felt the same way. And it's almost silly to say, like, of all the terrors going on, being crammed in that tube, it is when I especially was like, oh man, yeah. So, and then as we said, does it get a little bit Fast and Furious levels of like we don't care how ridiculous this is? Yeah, because we talked about in the random. There's no way he survives any of this.
There's a 0% chance.
Possibility.
There's some kind of physics with pressure and stuff. His body probably just crushes itself instantly.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be repetitive. That's the magic of this series, though.
Yes.
You just buy everything they throw at you.
Yeah. And like incredible visuals. I mean, from him floating up and the tilting camera turning upside down to the ice, just incredible.
It's unbelievable. Like, I'm not being dramatic when I say this stuff. It's unreal. It's unbelievable.
And so we go from that because again, I almost feel bad for the tons of other like cool little things that happen in this movie and cool other stunts because it's going to boil down to the submarine and the planes.
Airplanes.
I mean, it's cool enough when he's in the like little, it's like a heliplane. It's like a mix between helicopter and plane. And they're like, we got to turn back because the Russians are showing us their missiles on their plane. And so you see it dawn on him. I've got to get out. They've got to leave. So he just runs and jumps out of the back of the plane into the water. Super cool moment.
That's really
It almost
cool.
gets forgotten because of how
it just makes
it. Because it's a moment, and then these other ones last 10 minutes.
Yeah. That's a great shot, though.
Yeah.
And I 100% sure Cruise just jumped into the freezing cold ocean.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did.
So then it goes to the planes. Yeah. Not then, right then. But I'm
No.
saying that's the next big talking point. Is the planes. Once again, plenty of action leading up to the planes, but it's just all going to pale in comparison to like, oh my gosh, when they're on the planes.
It's unreal.
And we talked about this a little bit in Dead Reckoning Part 1. It already felt like that movie, they were doing a lot of pay homage to previous movies. Like, we're going to do something that was done in previous movies, but take it up a notch. So, like, ended on a big train sequence like Mission Impossible 1 did. And this one, Fallout, which is considered by a lot of people,
most people think it's the best
in the franchise, ends with him and one helicopter chasing down Henry Cavill and another helicopter doing all these crazy stunts. And they're like, what if we did that again, but on just planes this time? Not even helicopters. We're
not even in the safety of...
Right.
Yeah, we're just out in the air.
Yeah. The stunt work of Tom Cruise, first off, there's so much of it. Like we said, it's like a 10-minute sequence. Yeah. It's not just a moment of... So it harkens back to not just Fallout, it harkens back to Rogue Nation when he hangs on the side of the plane and it takes off, which is an incredible stunt.
It's incredible.
But it is a minute.
Yeah, it's brief.
This
is so long.
I mean, he is hanging on all parts of this plane, flipping around parts, like shifting planes. It is so much stunt work. I'm literally sitting there going like, how long did this take to film?
Yeah.
Because the impossibility of each set, and again, this is where we need the making of to see how they did it. Because I don't know.
Who's holding this camera?
It's a great question.
I'm baffled. It's insane. And again, not to be repetitive, it's just built for IMAX.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel like you can feel the wind whipping through the theater.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We know that no matter how much they try to do practical, there's still a mix of... So, like, I'm sitting there wondering, like, are they doing a lot of these shots on the ground with the wind machine and then CGIing that they're in the air? It feels like they're in the air for every bit of it.
It sure does.
So and I'm sure they were for at least
I mean, most
some
definitely
of it.
they were for points of it. I just don't know how much.
So that's what I know, like, where the blends are.
Unbelievable.
Because I'm like, if they did literally all of it in the air, that's what I'm talking about. It had to take months because... I mean, you can't change the rigging of the cameras and the setup of the shot.
You have to
air.
do like tiny little moments at a time.
Set up, fly up there, redo it. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense. I'm blown away.
It boggles the mind.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you walk out of that movie, and it almost doesn't matter what the rest of the movie was, because that sequence is one of the greatest things ever filmed.
It is. It absolutely is. I think it will be talked about for years and years and years.
Yeah. This is, in my opinion, likely the final installment of the franchise. I just feel like everything they did in this movie was saying we're done and goodbye. It would be almost awkward at this point.
Yeah.
It's like they were saying this really sentimental goodbye.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like if you do that at,
It
at a
negates
party
it a little
and you
bit.
do all this like real sentimental, like I'm gone, everybody, and then you come back.
Hey,
That's awkward.
guys, I'm
It's
back.
awkward. So, I'm not saying that Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie will never work again on a film where they do crazy stunts. I just think they're done with Mission Impossible. I could be wrong, but the whole reason I'm saying all this is I think it was a very satisfactory, I don't know how you top that anyways, way to conclude.
Yeah. Everyone gets they all have their moment. The team, this kind of new team they've assembled, everyone gets to just stare lovingly at each other into the camera, and they all just kind of walk off. Everyone's safe and healthy. See you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie is, again, stuff full of characters. And by stuff full of characters, I mean, like, the cast is unreal in this thing.
There's so many people and so many recognizable faces in this movie. It's incredible.
There's, and too many people don't have enough to do. Like, there's a lot of overqualified for these small parts. I mean,
let's just get to it. Nick Offerman, this is one of the most overqualified for the part in the history of movies.
yes. So Nick Offerman and Holt McElhaney, who people will know from what's the wrestling movie that we did like a year ago on this pod about the brothers and he's the dad.
The Iron Claw.
The Iron Claw. Thank
Yeah.
you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We've been so smooth.
It's late at night.
Yes. They're just like on the president's like war council team.
Yeah.
Both of them have hardly anything to do, and it's like, but it's awesome that it's them.
It is.
It just adds.
It's like we talked
weight
about
to it.
before. You might be overqualified, and that's okay because you're adding just a presence and almost like a prestige to the movie.
Yeah. And then I almost get the sense that like Tom Cruise watched some episodes of different popular TV shows and was like, I like that person. Let's have him in the movie. So Hannah Waddington from Ted Lasso plays oh my gosh, aircraft carrier.
Scratch the late night podcast idea.
And then the guy, his name is Tremel Tillman, is from Severance.
Yeah.
Plays the submarine captain. And like every time you're like, oh, that guy, like he's kind of becoming a guy because of that show.
Absolutely. And again, just to the magic of this series, they're able to just slide into these parts and just add some credibility to what should and could and should be just nothing parts.
And then maybe the most sentimental to the franchise casting is that they bring back the guy who was
what a moment for that guy.
Yeah, the security guy in the original Knockless break-in at Langley, and he gets, it's. I remembered now because I just rewatched them all that right after the break-in. Kendrick says like, ship this guy off to like the Arctic, basically.
It's actually smart.
And he's in the Arctic. I was shocked though how long they let him keep riding. I thought, oh, he'll be in this for a minute. It's a nice little like call back to him.
Pretty big part of the movie.
No, it's like they were like, hey, dude, we feel bad for how like
we want to reward your loyalty.
And so I was blown away that this dude he became such a big part of the movie. I also think, again, this is a lot of like Ethan Hunt is just the greatest person on earth.
Sure.
So they even had to have the moment where like Ethan Hunt meets him at the end and he
like,
kind
no.
of apologizes, but the guy's like, no, best thing that ever happened to me.
Thank you, Ethan. Everything is just like, thank you, Ethan Hunt. It's like, so you've been living in isolation in the Arctic for 30 years.
But he met his wife there.
And he met his wife there, and you owe it all to Ethan Hunt. It's just incredible.
Yeah. I mean, like,
these movies should be a disaster.
They
really should.
In a lot of ways, like, yes, you're absolutely right. We talked about this, I think we talked about this on the Dead Reckoning one. If you just took these scripts and you took them to like, an acting troupe class and said like, hey, amateur actors, read these scripts, you would go like, this is ridiculous. I mean, like the speeches that they give, the lines that they say But that's why you get these actors like Ving Rhames and
That can pull it off.
yeah, guys like that who when they're saying these cheesy, stupid things.
Like Ving Rhames has you don't see him, but you hear him. He has like a closing monologue of the movie. It should be terrible. You should be rolling your eyes.
Talking about the sum of our, infinite
We are
choices.
the sum
and
of
we
our.
have,
Like
we have
what?
two paths.
This is nonsense.
One path of kindness and empathy towards each other. And you're just like,
It's nonsense.
Ridiculous.
It's nonsense. But the magic of this series is that this stuff works.
Yes. All right. So I referenced this. This is not a pat myself on the back thing about how dedicated I am to this, but I watched all the Mission Impossible movies within the past week.
Yeah.
To get ready for this. Here's one of my big takeaways from it. I think Simon Pegg is by far the second most critical person in this whole series, this whole franchise.
Yeah.
He brings so much to the table. I mean, we've seen it. Like, there's a lot of other moving pieces that are replaceable. I mean, the love interest is always
Oh, yeah. It's a
interchanging
revolving
from-
door.
yes. But Simon Pegg has just the best amount of levity and charm, but he pulls off that like everything's going haywire, like I'm panicky, but I'm trying to get through it. It's actually really great acting. We talk about how Tom Cruise actually does really great acting in these movies, despite the fact that like it's not going to get recognized for acting.
Of course not.
He might get recognized for like his incredible stunts, but like talk about his facial work, like all his little responses, facial responses to everything is so great. Simon Pegg is equally like he is so good at all these little moments. And talking about that, if you just gave the script to an amateur and said, act out this scene, it'd be bad. Simon Pegg sells it so stinking well.
Yeah, obviously this is Cruise's series, but like he's the co-MVP of this series.
Yeah.
It's like, we're in the spoilers. So at the end of this movie, he's been injured and he's having to like give instructions to the Haley Atwell character, but he's kind of like fading in and out of consciousness. Again, that should be so stupid.
Yeah.
Where it's like, but don't cut through this. And it's like, that should be terrible.
You're right.
That should be cringy. It should be like, oh my gosh. Simon Pegg pulls it off. And it's amazing how he's like, when these movies first started, his job is basically just like, you be the nerdy, like, you're the nerdy kind of computery guy. And then he kind of evolves into like more of like a field agent kind of. And it's amazing how he can pull this stuff off. He's not an intimidating looking guy. He obviously can't do what Cruise can do because nobody can. But you go like, you know what? I'd want him on my team.
Absolutely.
It's a really cool like progression over all the movies.
Yes, it is. God, there's just so many little absurdities he's thinking about. Like, you're talking about that scene as he's talking her through, like, she's hacking into this system that he's never seen before, but he's just explaining perfectly how to do
It's
it.
incredible.
And it's like, this light on,
How
this
does he
light off.
know?
All of it's way too simple, like, for us as movie fans to understand. And again, none of it matters. And yet somehow, here I am, the dum-dum, just on the edge of my seat,
Right.
going like,
No.
I can't wait for, this light to go in here and her cut this wire and this thing lights up and she grabs it and it's just insane.
So you know what I was thinking? One thing that really stood out this time to me is this series, and especially I think this one may be the best example, or maybe it's just because I just watched it. They are really good, and maybe this is a McQuarrie thing because it's the last few movies especially. They come up with these, like, oh, you have to hit this button at this exact time or everything's going to explode. Like, they come up with the stupidest scenario, but they write dialogue. And again, these actors, they get good enough actors to pull it off where it's like they're explaining these ridiculous things. And it just works. It's like, okay, so like there's a scene like where Cruise is basically just, for the finale, he's laying out the whole plan to the whole team. The plan is the stupidest thing you've ever heard in your life. Okay, we've got to get this made-up name for this device and attach it to this other made-up name for this device. Get it to Gabriel, who's going to accidentally feed it. And like, it's so stupid. But the way they pull it off, and the writing too, they just make it work.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
I mean, yeah, like I said, every single thing that has to happen in this movie, they're like, how can we make sure that this sounds like the most impossible thing possible?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, not only
They
does he have
really
to go
lean
do all
into the
submarine
Mission
stuff,
Impossible title.
but they were like, I mean, Haley Atwell has a line. So, like, she's like, this whole plan depends on us finding you at the exact right spot at the exact right time. And And he's like, yeah, basically.
And that's the smart way to play it. Just have the characters in the movie say out loud, "This is ridiculous."
Yep. And then Tom Cruise with his great acting face makes a face that basically says like, "Yeah, I know this sounds crazy, but like it's the only way.
It's our only option.
If there was another way, believe me, I would do it. But this is the only way I can see." He's gonna be real intense.
It's really impressive how they can all make this ridiculous stuff work.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is in this movie, chock full of so many characters, I think almost all the characters get to have their moment. Mm-hmm. That's about all a lot of the characters get to have because there's just so much going on.
There's so much, yeah. And you're right. Like, so you're not going to get like fully fleshed out, fully formed stories for each character. So yeah, what you have to do is what they do is just find ways to give them all their little moments.
Yeah. It does make me wonder if some people, though, are like, really, the guy from the first Mission Impossible is going to show up and have literally just the same amount to do that I do in this movie?
Probably.
But, again, they all get to have their moments. I mean, Palm Clementif, I think he's,
I think that's it, yeah.
He plays Mantis. That's all everybody's going to know her as Mantis.
They're just going to call her Mantis.
From the Guardian of the Galaxy movies. She doesn't have a ton to do in this movie, but it's like she gets to have a couple of great moments.
She does.
And actually some comic relief moments when, she's got to patch up Benji. He's like, do either of you have any medical experience? She's like,
I kill people.
Yeah. He's like, I'll have to work with it. Yeah, we'll work with it.
Everyone's really good at maximizing their minutes in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
But man, it is all like, I mean, to be fair, no one's walking out thinking about anybody but Tom Cruise in this movie because that's the guy.
We got to talk about this. Like, so before the movie started, we were sitting in the lobby and I looked up at like the little board that shows what's playing, and they have a Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning poster up there. And there's other posters. This is not the only one, but the poster is just literally the closest close-up of Tom Cruise's handsome, chiseled face. And I made the commentary. I was like, man, that's a Tom Cruise design. Like, he has so much say over these movies. He's approving every single thing. He is dotting every I and crossing every T. And it's like, yeah, the poster just needs to be my face, front and center, no tagline, nothing. What's selling this movie is that I'm Tom Cruise.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, and that's the thing that sort of makes you like almost eye roll when everything's like, Ethan, you're the greatest. Ethan, you're the only one who can ever do this.
Dude.
It's like when Tom Cruise is the guy like driving this whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's like somebody wrote this and they're like, and we'll cast Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise reads it and goes like, well, I don't know, it's making me like too perfect. It reminds me of, I can't remember who it is that pointed it out, but somebody recently like went on a rant about Good Will Hunting, and they're like, oh, the movie where Matt Damon wrote himself as a genius who can do anything, and made people laugh. And it's like that's what Tom Cruise is doing basically.
He is.
Here.
But I was thinking about this. He is doing that, and he's getting all the attention and everything. But he is also putting the weight of the success of these movies completely on his shoulders.
For sure. And nobody's going to complain when then he goes, and then I'm going to go perform all these death-defying stunts.
He makes it impossible to hate him. Yeah. Because he's not being egotistical and making the whole movie about him and making himself front and center on the poster and then going, well, I'm just going to sit here in my lounge chair while my stuntman goes up there. No, he's up there. It is not an exaggeration that he is literally risking his life to make these movies.
Yeah.
Yes, there are, stunt coordinators and supervisors and safety nets and wires and all this stuff, but he is still up on an airplane.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Do you think that there's ever a moment on the filming of these where any of the other main actors, there's a stunt for them coming up that could go either way, and the director asks them, like, are you comfortable doing the stunt, that they're willing to say no with Tom Cruise standing there?
I would be. I hope they are, because it's like, I cannot compete with this. I'm not even going to try.
Could you just imagine they're like, no, I'm not going to do the stunt. Get the stunt guy to do it. And Tom's standing there like, really?
It's like,
you've got to do stunt for like one car.
Yeah. You're getting a stunt guy to take this punch for you. By the way, I just got off an airplane. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, I bet Tom Cruise gives great pep talks though.
Oh, he does.
Again, the way that Ethan and Tom Cruise just blends into one person.
They're the same person.
Tom is talking just like Ethan Hunt when it comes to filming these sequences. He's like, I need you to trust me. We're
One
going to find a
less.
way. I'm going to like,
That's just Tom Cruise.
I'm going to make sure nothing happens to you.
Yeah.
Like he'll say it and you'll be like, okay, Tom,
Yeah.
I believe you.
I think it's fair to say, and I'm glad we're living in this moment and we're seeing these movies together in IMAX and stuff. There's never going to be anything else like this because there's never going to be anybody else like Tom Cruise.
Correct.
There's just not. You're never going to convince me that there is.
I know.
People might try, but they're not going to do it.
I mean, it's kind of wild. I almost feel bad for someone like Keanu Reeves because, he's celebrated for, he learns all the action choreography for these like John Wick movies. And,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of work and it's hard on his body and all
Absolutely.
this. It's never going to compare to what Tom Cruise does.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it's, hey, you're coming in second and that gap between first and second
As deep as that submarine is in the bottom of that ocean.
I did think it's funny. So another way that they are overly sentimental about the franchise and just feel like they have to tie everything back to previous
Everything.
movies is the Shea Wiggum character, who's one of the cops that's been after him for now. This is the second movie in a row he's after him. Turns out to be the son of Jim Phelps, which is the John Voight character from the first one. I'm like, okay.
They really
You do
felt
not have to overly, you're so overly sentimental about the franchise. You've got to tie everything into this
they
one.
are.
But what made me laugh is they do that. I mean, they talk about. I mean, they bring the guy back, obviously
From the first one.
from Langley, William Donlow. I just know because I've got it pulled up here. They talk about the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible 3 a whole lot.
They show a clip of our guy Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Almost the only thing they don't do is they could not find a way to tie in Mission Impossible 2 because it is still the
It is
black
the
sheep
forgotten-
of the family.
it is.
They're like, I can't do anything
Like
with this.
we're not
is
messing with
basically
it.
what they're saying.
The only service that paid Mission Impossible 2. This movie loves to do quick cuts of previous movies. That's like the first minute and a half of this movie.
Yes, it
And
is
that was a
basically-
little much if we're going to complain. But it does show him like hanging on that mountain.
Yeah, that first part of the movie, that's where I was like, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Like, they're over into themselves, right? And
They are. They're a little deep in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. I'm not denying that.
Because I'm sitting there going, like, the usual thing for a Mission Impossible movie is, like, a first mission or deception into the light the fuse credits.
Yeah.
And I was like, this one started off with, like, that montage of previous things. It's a good, 10 minutes in the movie before we get that light the
10
fuse.
to 12
so they
minutes,
still
yeah.
are like, we're going to do something action-y that sets off that fuse for, and here's the movie.
Yeah.
It just took a little longer to get into because they were like, we got to do all this other. And there was also a lot of, they were making sure people weren't lost from not seeing the
They
first one.
really worked hard to connect.
And when you try to get people up to speed really fast with the plot, that's when it looks bad.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Is the way they were able to just kind of draw it out and they don't overly focus on any of the details is how you don't get lost and how ridiculous it is. But when they got a quick recap, it's like,
This is
well, that is kind of dumb. Like,
Yeah. I will say, like, the first, I'm with you. Like, the first 45 minutes, which sounds like a long time, I was like, eh. And then you're right, that submarine scene hits, and you just kind of forget about it all. I'm not saying the first 45 minutes is bad, but I was like, man, we need to kind of.
It wasn't great.
It's not phenomenal.
I mean, I was literally sitting there going like, this is going to end up being near the bottom of my Mission Impossible rankings, this installment. And now after like those sequences, I'm like, this is going to be impossible to rank because it's going to be like, it's some of the worst plotting and charactering of the franchise, some of the least fun.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing I was thinking of. Mission Impossible movies are great because we've talked about it. They're a time movie you can throw on and have it on in the background and do other stuff because it's just so lighthearted. And I'm
not
like,
this one.
I can't imagine throwing on and be like, yeah, I'm just going to have the submarine scene on in the background while I do laundry.
Yeah.
It's too intense.
It's too intense.
And I'm like, I don't know what that's going to mean later on. Now, on the one hand, it emotionally like grabs you a little more because it's so intense.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing in some ways, but it also is not going to have the like breezy rewatchability of some of the other ones. So I don't know. Just,
You do wonder if there's an even better version of this movie where they just weren't trying to be so, I don't know if self-righteous is the right word, but it's like
self-importance.
self-important. This might seem a little dramatic, but you could probably make an argument they could shave almost an hour off this movie.
I think that they could have done a lot to make because this. I don't want to come in complaining, but I was literally thinking, had thoughts during those airplane stunts and that whole action sequence where I was like, better thought into the other parts of this movie, and this is one of the greatest movies of all time.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I walk out and I go like,
Really?
one of the greatest movies I've ever seen.
If you just make a movie built around the submarine into the airplanes,
yeah.
you could really cut out the first 30 minutes of this
And then
movie.
just put in kind of any sort of general spy espionage stuff in between.
Yeah.
It doesn't all have to be like literally the end of the world. Everything is at stake at all moments, at all times.
Yeah.
It could have been a little lighter in between those, and those could have still had their weight. And,
Yeah.
and then I think it would have been a better movie.
Yeah.
I think you're right. The self-importance, the self-seriousness,
It
we gotta make
weighs
sure
it down a little
that,
bit.
I mean, Ethan Hunt is basically Jesus in this world, saving the world with his self-sacrifice and
It
determination.
weighs it down.
It weighs it down a bit.
Now, that being said, maybe it does work in the sense of like that last 20 minutes is just incredible. And the way they balance the different things that are going on, whether they're ridiculous or not, they are. But they're balancing the Simon Pegg, Haley Atwell, Palm Clemente stuff. They're balancing the dude and his wife who've been in the Arctic, and then the other guy.
Yeah.
They're balancing Cruise on the plane, and they're balancing the president and Nick Offerman and all that stuff that's going on. That stuff is incredible, and that has such a forward momentum
Yeah.
that you're like, it's one of the all-time, like, I don't even know what analogy to use, like fourth quarter comebacks or something maybe. Like, I don't know.
No, you're right. Yeah, it is.
And that's where you just go, I can't dislike this movie. I just can't. It's impossible. Yes, it's flawed. Yes, it takes itself too seriously. Yes, it takes too long to get to the stuff. But the highs of this movie are so incredibly, they're so incredibly high.
Do you think that the self-seriousness of this movie years down the road has Rocky IV potential, where it almost becomes like humorously
I
over
think
the
it
top,
might.
self-serious,
And
where it becomes almost like this is such a fun movie, even though it was trying to be so serious?
I think it does, and I'll even point out a couple of examples.
Okay.
So we haven't even talked about him yet, but S.I. Morales, I think that's how you say his name. He plays
sure.
Gabriel.
Yes.
He's a dude that's been around for a while. I remember seeing him in movies in the 80s when I was a kid. He's solid. Like, he's a good presence. He's nice looking dude up on screen. He pulls off that like suave, like
and apparently did a lot of the stunts with
so
Tom Cruise as
kudos
well.
to him. So towards the climax, they're in this doomsday room or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
He hops in a Jeep, and as he's driving off, he is literally almost like twirling his mustache. He's like, "Catch me if you can, Ethan." Literally, I'm not exaggerating. I actually chuckled, and I was sitting next to Ryan, my son, and he kind of looked at me like, because I chuckled.
Right.
And it's just like, that's the kind of stuff I think they thought. I don't think they were like, man, just chew the scenery. I think they were like, you're giving one of the greatest performances in movie history.
Yeah.
Catch me if you can, Ethan.
They gave him moments like that, even in the previous one. Rewatching Dead Reckoning. When he escapes the train. He screams out Ethan.
It's a lot.
That is.
So then there's also a scene with S.I. Morales. He's in the plane. It's pretty BA. Like, Cruise just grabs his arm and just yanks it backwards. Pretty cool. But he's like, oh, like he is really over the top. And maybe you should be. So, yes, I think that we might look back at this and be like, oh my gosh, they were so in love with themselves in this movie that it's. But and I promise you, I'm not trying to knock this dude, Gabriel, because I like him. I think he's good.
Yeah.
But he's really exploring the studio space, as Bill Simmons would say.
So the seriousness continues with the end of the movie, because from the time that Cruise is shown to have landed, so first off they do the kind of obvious fake out, like he's falling. And
They've
the
done
chute
that
doesn't
so
work.
many times in this series,
And you're like,
but it still worked.
It does still work. And then the message plays from Luther. There's Luther's monologue, the president and the son having like that brief exchange. And that's the only like dialogue in the rest of the movie. It's so quiet.
It's all done through.
Yeah, it's all just like eye contact and faces. There's a really great bro handshake between Ethan.
An all-timer. That's another example of, I think we'll look back on this movie and kind of
I laughed
like
at that
lovingly
moment,
laugh.
on that moment. And Woody looked over at me like, did you just laugh? And I had to tell him afterwards, it's like, it's because you just know Tom Cruise is like first we'll shake hands, and then we'll twist it into the bro thing.
And then they even do the thing where it's like, also hold your gun up so it looks like you're pointing it at me, but then just extend your hand. Like it's the most.
It is the most. And I don't know, like if they just thought like all that we just went through, we don't want anybody to like think about anything but the big dramatic ending. So like dialogue will kind of like ruin the mood, I think is what the thought was. Because like the music kind of just.
I mean, honestly, I think it's a good call.
It is it's kind of funny to me. I'm like,
I agree with you.
It can almost go into that comedic, like by the end, like all the like seeing each other in eye contact, and then they like one at a time. I see you all, and then one at a time, like one more nod while I disappear. And it's like each character at a time.
It is so funny because like every direction Cruz turns his head, then someone walks around the corner. Like he looks, here comes Mantis. He looks, here comes Benji. Yeah. He looks, oh, what do you know? There's Grace. Like, but I don't know that I'd want it any other way.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is like, what do you say at this point?
Yeah,
yeah. I do think, man, we've said it. And I feel like I'm rehashing this as part of just going off the cuff, but like, I do wonder what happens in this movie. Just give like Aaron Sorkin a quick run through the script and say like, Aaron, punch this up for us. Make it a little like, little smarter, a little better for us. But
you know what though? Let's see. McQuarrie and another dude wrote this movie. I didn't recognize the dude's name, but I think McQuarrie is probably the one that's got his, has got the most say, and Cruz. And I will say, and the same thing with Dead Reckoning, same thing with Fallout. And did McQuarrie direct the one before that? And he direct Rogue Nation also.
Yes, I think so. I think this is his
fourth.
Yeah.
So he just, and I think we talked about this when we did Dead Reckoning. They just have this gift of just the looks and all that stuff, but it's like the dialogue they do right. Well, it could be better, higher quality, whatever. They say what they need to say so that it's like they're saying this ridiculous stuff. You don't even have to know what they're talking about, but it just conveys like, basically it's like, this is bad. Here's how to make it good, but it all works.
No, you're right. And the dialogue has to be unrealistic because if it was realistic, it would be like the movie Warfare we talked about, where like there's hardly dialogue and all of it's so like technical that you're just like I don't know what's going on, but I'm just if they were trying to be like super realistic, we wouldn't understand a thing that was happening. In this movie.
We'd be lost.
So you're right. Like it's kind of got to be silly. I do want to say like as much as we punched how self-serious they are and self-important they are, it wasn't like it was completely humorless, and it actually in some ways made like the humorous moments punch a little more.
They did
because it's a much smaller percentage in the movie, but they still like they still are having fun. They do know this is a fun action franchise. It's just leaned way more to the serious side.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like it's just like I laughed. I got chuckles, from different things.
Yeah,
like there's almost like a Three Stooges moment at the beginning, right before we hit the Mission Impossible theme, where like Tom Cruise kills these guys, and Haley Atwell's just kind of standing there, and he keeps going back to her like, hey, we got to go right now. Then he pops back in the frame. But I'm really glad you're okay. I promise I would never let anything happen to you. Like, that was almost like slapstick comedy.
Yeah. That was a weird scene.
It was odd.
Just kind of weirdly filmed. I honestly, because I thought the way they were filming it that somebody else had showed up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, just Tom showed up. And
this movie does start out a little clunky.
It's a little clunky. We should talk about how Tom Cruise is in great shape for being in his 60s, and we have to talk about this. So many scenes where he's like, what if I'm shirtless? And that scene, I was like, this is a gratuitous amount of shirtless Tom Cruise. Little did I know.
That was nothing.
There's going to be a good 10% of this movie where he's basically just in his underwear because he's getting ready for this dive, and then when he's diving, like, he wants to show off how great a shape he's in.
There is no reason for that dude to attack him when he's on that treadmill, like doing his breathing stuff. That is literally just so Tom Cruise could have a knife fight with a dude in his underwear.
Yeah.
There is no reason for that guy to attack him.
No.
It makes no sense to the plot. It has nothing to do with anything, and he gets easily wiped out. Tom Cruise just wanted to have a fight in his undies.
Yes.
I can say that with full confidence. And it's like let's just be real here. It's like hey, you don't have on like some loose kind of fitting boxers or something. You have on skin tight black underwear.
Yes.
Yeah. And you are going to roll around for quite a while fighting this guy in these skin tight black underwear.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just stating facts.
Listen, I'll be honest. If I was in great shape right now, I would probably be like,
Let alone,
I would be like, we should film this stuff shirtless because I work really hard to get in shape. I'm not.
Yeah.
Let alone 20 years from now.
it's listen, whatever, however vain he is or whatever, he's earned it.
Yes. I mean, I am totally vain. You just don't know that about me because I don't have a body to show
Right.
off. If I did,
We'd be doing this
everyone would-
podcast
yeah,
shirtless right now.
Everyone would know exactly how vain I am.
We'd be like, just flex it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I looked like that too, maybe I wouldn't be a movie nerd who's doing a podcast. So
Right.
you're welcome, world, for keeping the body like this.
That's right. We're doing it for you, the viewer.
Exactly. All right. I don't want to get totally off of, talking about this movie, but because I did go through all the Mission Impossibles, I wanted to share my ranking of them.
Please do.
And once again, this is so fresh, it's really hard to know where to put this one. I kind of had a placeholder spot for it, and you know what? I think I kind of like it right where I placeholded
Okay.
it. But again, this is a really hard one to rank because depending on what your criteria is, there's not scenes better than the two big set pieces.
No.
There's not better action sequences in any
it's not.
franchise.
No.
But okay, so we'll start from the bottom, work my way up.
It's a no-brainer what the bottom is.
The bottom is Mission Impossible 2. We just reviewed it. People
It is
can
true.
listen to that review.
It's bad.
I didn't want to believe it was as bad as it was, and I watched it and go, oh my gosh, this movie's really bad. In the 7th spot, I go with Mission Impossible 3.
Yeah.
It's not actively bad.
It's just kind of a lot of nothing.
Yeah, it just kind of lacks heart. It lacks such a MacGuffin, the bad guy. And I said it then, and I'll say it again. I just think Philip Seymour Hoffman's villain is overrated, not because Philip Seymour Hoffman's overrated, but rewatching it's like he's literally in the movie for a total of maybe 5 minutes, and he does very little.
I think a lot
And
of it just comes from how much people love
people
Philip
love
Seymour
him,
Hoffman.
and he does he has a way of when he says things, it sounds so serious and it has so much gravitas.
But he's saying nothing.
But literally, the dude could have just woken up from his sleep and somebody held a card in front of him and said, "Say this," and it's exactly what it would have sounded like.
Yeah, that's fair.
Number 6, I have Mission Impossible 1. So the original trilogy I've got at the bottom 3, just in a different order. And actually, I think that speaks to the quality of this franchise because I think Mission Impossible 1 is a good movie. It's a movie I really like and respect.
And just who would have ever thought that these other ones would get
but
so much?
It is funny. It's not as bad as the Fast and Furious franchise, which I don't like at all. But there is a little bit of that, if you watch Mission Impossible 1 and then skipped ahead to this one, you'd be like, this is the same franchise? This is unreal departure from, the grounded, he's very much just a regular guy who's smart and capable in Mission Impossible 1 to now he's
basically
superhero.
Superman.
Yeah. So at the 5th spot, I've got Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Good, but it is the setup movie to this movie.
That is true.
4th spot, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning.
Yeah.
Again, probably what's dragging it down is just a lot of the self-seriousness, self-important, all the stuff that I talked about at the beginning. At number 3, I've got Rogue Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, the first McQuarrie one. Yeah. And it actually, you can see a step up in its, McQuarrie, all the Tom Cruise and McQuarrie ones take themselves a little more seriously.
Yeah, you can tell.
And they get a little more serious as they go along. Mm-hmm. And then I'm surprised how close I was in deciding 2 and 1. Number 2, I'm going with Ghost Protocol. But Ghost Protocol, I've rewatching all of them. I was like, this one I think gets the best tone. As far as it is just the most fun from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. And
is that Brad Bird?
It is.
Yeah.
We talked about it's the one that sort of saved the franchise by finding what the franchise really is.
Yep. It really did.
And I wonder if it kind of took Brad Bird. I don't mean to insult Brad Bird in any way, but he is not a filmmaker with such a distinct style like the first 3 directors were. We talked about the first 3 are let's take filmmakers with very distinct styles and
let them do a
make
Mission
a movie
Impossible
in their style, and then show how Tom Cruise can just adapt into their style. And Brad Bird, I think, because he doesn't necessarily have this is a distinctly Brad Bird style. He just made a movie, and Tom Cruise got to be the real focal point of it.
Yep.
And they go, oh, this is what works.
This is what this is.
And so that's what it was from then on.
Yeah.
So great job with that. And then number 1 is Fallout.
It is. It's kind of when everything just hits its peak.
It does. It's kind of got the best combination, like I think the best villain in my opinion with Henry Cavill. It's got that amazing helicopter like climax. Like it does a little bit of this. Like we got to tie back to previous movies and be sentimental about it.
Does.
Bringing the wife back from the third one.
Yes.
But it's not as relentless with it like this new one is.
Yeah.
So it like we said, it kind of finds the best balance between like we're still having a lot of fun, we're getting a little more serious, and we're meeting at the right like
Kind of where
center
everything
part.
just peaks at the top.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know what? I think my rankings would be just about identical to yours.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I will say like the top 4. That's a good top 4. You know, it's not like 4, 1. You know, like
No, you're right,
Once you get to that, it's a win all around.
Honestly, like Mission Impossible 2 is the only one that I'm like, that's a bad movie.
Yeah.
3's a little bland.
Yep.
And I say bland. If you watch it, like it is very stylish.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
JJ loves like
oh yeah, he does.
stylish action and
He
lens
does.
flares, and it looks cool, but it's just
Yeah.
kind of sterile. Do you want to hear my ranking of Mission Impossible hotties?
Absolutely, I do.
I don't think I want to read this out loud, but I'll run through it. Number 8, Michelle Monaghan, Mission Impossible 3. Number 7, Thandie Newton, Mission Impossible 2. Number 6, Rebecca Ferguson from Rogue Nation and Dead Reckoning. Number 5, Palm Clementif from the Reckoning movies. Number 4, Emmanuel Bert from Mission Impossible 1. Number 3, Vanessa Kirby from Fallout and Dead Reckoning. Number 2, Haley Atwell from the Reckoning movies. And number 1, surprisingly, maybe Paula Patton, Ghost Protocol.
Okay.
All right. Can't wait to share that. And,
Hey, more power to you.
hey, guys, you want to know what a nerd I am? I just ranked how hot the women are in the Mission Impossible franchise.
It's your podcast, man.
But you know what? It's a good test. We're 50 minutes in. We'll see who notices that.
Yeah. Now we'll know who watches all the way through.
Who gives me crap about, Jeremy, did you really rank the hotness of women?
You did it. Go for it.
I'm sorry.
No apologies.
I did also rank the villains. They're just not nearly as interesting.
Not near as interesting. I can tell you from just watching this movie with my boys, they would definitely agree with your Haley Atwell take.
Yeah. I will say this. On my villain rankings, my last place one, I didn't even think to write the entity. I just wrote AI.
Yeah.
It's the last place villain.
Yeah.
So, just a really weird, bizarre, but good franchise.
It is. We covered it so much when we did Dead Reckoning Part 1. It's probably the most inexplicably good franchise. I mean, maybe Fast and Furious you can make an argument for. I'm not a Fast and Furious guy.
Yeah.
But just the way it's been able to evolve and continue on.
For sure.
It really defies all the odds. This series should have been done after 3.
Yes.
Should have been 3 movies where you go, you know what, this is pretty good. Like in the year 2000, it was like, okay, like The Mountain. Like I didn't think of Mission Impossible 2 as this crap movie like I do now. But you know, it's like you kind of just go like, oh, like Tom Cruise, some cool Tom Cruise action. And I remember, I think I probably told the story, but it's like I remember when they announced the Mission Impossible 4, I was like, oh brother.
Yeah.
We don't need this.
I didn't see it in theaters. I saw each of the first 3 in theaters, and by the 4th one, I was like, we're
come
done.
on. Yeah, and then it was like, oh, this movie is really good, and it's just been kind of uphill since then, and it's probably the weirdest franchise in movie history.
And again, maybe it's not done, but I feel like it's at a really good place to call it.
I will say that, after seeing this tonight, I hope it's done.
Yeah.
Now, if it's not, of course, I'll go see another one. But like you said, like after the submarine and this airplane thing, I just quit, people. Like number 1 for Tom Cruise's well-being.
Yeah.
And number 2, like you've done it. Like McQuarrie, Cruise, all these guys, you've done it. There is no doubt that Cruise is the GOAT action star, the GOAT, like he has nothing left to prove. You know, I reminds me of like in Dark Knight Rises when Catwoman's talking to Batman and she's like, come with me. You don't owe these people anymore. You've given them everything. Someone needs to give that speech to Cruise and McQuarrie, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, keep working together by all means, but you just don't need to do it in this Mission Impossible world.
Yeah. What I would like to see for Cruise, and I think it might be happening because I think I heard whatever the next movie is doing, I can't remember who it is, but he's working with a director that's obviously not making like an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, Tom, you've proven it. You're the greatest action hero of all time.
Yeah.
now remind everybody that you're a great actor.
Do you know what he's doing next?
What is it?
He's doing a underwater like horror thriller movie with your girl Ana de Armas.
Okay.
And I think McQuarrie's involved. I don't know if that's his next
I would say
movie.
and maybe it is, but maybe it's the one after that I
Yeah.
heard of where he's working with somebody that was. I wish I could remember who.
Oh, he's doing He's doing a movie with the dude that did like Gravity. I think.
Yes, Alfonso Cuarón.
I think.
I think that's what I heard.
Yeah. Or is it him or who's the other guy that does really well received movies right around the time of him? I don't know. I can't think of it right now, but he's. I think he is diving back into the.
Oh, it's Iñárritu.
There you go. Thank
Yeah.
you. I knew I would butcher it. I think he is diving back into the, hey, I do want to remind everyone I can act, but I still think he wants to do these. And there's always these rumors that him and McQuarrie want to film a movie in space.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
And I think that's real, that they are actively trying to do that. And Tom Cruise is also on record saying he wants to work with Scarlett Johansson. And then he also just went on record saying he wants to work with Michael B. Jordan. So I don't think he's slowing down anytime soon. There's also rumors of a Top Gun 3 and a Days of Thunder 2. So who knows, man? He's a mysterious guy. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. But as we said, we're big fans and we're there for it, whatever it is.
I'm there for it. I'm willing to go along on this ride with Tom Cruise.
Yes. And having said that, listeners, watchers, I hope that you are along with the ride for us as we continue this podcast.
This was a cool episode for us.
Absolutely.
I hope it showed. I mean, it's late at night. We just watched the movie, but
yeah, there are times when we do these episodes and I think, oh man, that was a bad episode. And I listen back and be like, oh, that was actually better than I thought. There's times when we record and I think, oh, that was really good. And I listen back and go, yeah, it wasn't good as we thought. This is one I'm just like, I hope we're coherent.
I hope so too. It's late. We're running off of Chick-fil-A and Tom Cruise adrenaline.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you for joining us, for listening to all this, for not shutting it off when I started ranking the actresses in the franchise.
Proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Um,
And I know we said
I'm a
it.
ridiculous human being. I don't know what to say.
It's fine. I know we said it. Go see this movie. Go see it in the biggest, loudest theater possible, and just
see it with friends.
see it with some. That's the way to go. That's what the way to go is to do what we did tonight. Just get some buddies together, go out to eat, and then go watch this movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then be inspired to do your own stunts and try something crazy.
I think that's what I'm going to do from now on. I'm no more stuntmen for me. Do you know what Tom Cruise's stuntman's name is, by the way?
No idea.
Wade Eastwood.
Hey.
Doesn't that sound exactly like someone what their name would be, who's Tom Cruise's stuntman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think anybody has more self-esteem issues than Tom Cruise's stuntman?
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Tom Cruise is like, all right, here's some easy stuff. Why don't you go get this one?
You go do that, Wade, or it's just like,
you got this, buddy.
thanks a lot, Wade. I couldn't have done it without you. And then he's like rolls his eyes to McQuarrie, and Wade's like, dude, I'm sitting right here. Like, I saw that. No, Wade, you're doing great. Like one of those type of deals. Real quick, I know you want to wrap up. McQuarrie thoughts.
I don't know that I really like. It's so hard. All I really know him as is the guy who collaborates with Cruise and does these things.
Yeah.
So it's obviously really impressive filmmaking.
The dude's obviously, he's impressive.
But like, my question is like, what is he apart from the Cruise apparatus? I'm sure he's made other.
He
movies.
wrote The Usual Suspects. Or co-wrote it. Like,
that is definitely something.
Yeah, it's something. Like, he's just now so linked to Cruise.
Yeah.
And so be it. If him and Cruise just want to work together until they're both too old to do it.
I didn't realize he directed the first Jack Reacher.
Yeah.
And The Way of the Gun was the only other thing he directed before that, 12 years before that. So he did Way of the Gun, Jack Reacher, and then a bunch of Mission Impossible. So that's why I don't know him.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to get a handle on him. Clearly, the guy's got talent.
Yeah,
like someone I would definitely keep my eye on
for sure. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what he does next, especially if it's not Cruise related. Not saying he needs to get away from Cruise.
I'm not either, but you're right. It would be interesting to see what he can do without Cruise and an infinite budget.
Yeah. And then lastly, just one more shout out to Simon Pegg. I do wonder, like, Simon Pegg, do you think he's properly rated?
I think he might be underrated.
I think he is too.
People, I will say though, I see a lot of online stuff. People do hold Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz in really, really high regard.
They do.
So maybe he is properly rated. He's a really talented guy.
I agree.
Yeah.
And he's had some other movies that I think are good that are underrated, like even between the first off, he's good in the Star Trek movies.
I was going to say,
point that out.
I know some people don't love the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. I actually quite enjoy him, and he is good in those.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to remember the name of the movie that he was in that I really enjoyed. I think it was called like Hector and the Search for Happiness. Yeah, Hector and the Search for Happiness.
Yeah.
It was like one of those like random movies that just kind of comes and goes. Not many people hear
Excuse me,
about it
the
or
late
see.
line showing through.
And when I watched it, I was like, I really enjoyed that movie. And I was like, Simon Pegg he can carry a movie like that. And
He's good.
I think most people will know him as like a bit player in a movie like this.
Yeah, but he's good. Yeah. And I don't know, like going back to him being a bit player, Cruise feels like such a one of one.
Yeah.
Like he's such a unicorn. But the way Simon Pegg can kind of connect with Cruise in these movies is impressive. Like honestly, like even more so than the female love interest, he has a better connection with Cruise than anybody else.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I say he's like by far the second most important
Absolutely.
person in this franchise. Is he's like the guy who can connect with the alien. That is Tom Cruise.
He is. That's not an easy job.
That's right. So great job by him. Andy, this was awesome.
It's past our bedtime.
I'm so glad that we did
I'm
this.
so glad we did it too.
And I'm looking forward to everybody else seeing this movie and having conversations with people and hearing people's responses. So people, if you see this movie, let us know what you think.
Absolutely.
And we will see you next time.
Absolutely.